Nothing's happening.
Sir, he is not responding. I'm not sure.
I said to keep going.
Administering second dose of atropine. Clear.
I'm sorry. Takeo.
Takeo sat next to his father on the stool, his hands on the keys of the piano. He was playing Forever Young by Alphaville, at least he was trying.
I can't do it, Dad.
Takeo confessed, frustration tinting his voice as he missed the right chord once more.
You can do it.
His father reassured, gently guiding Takeo's hands to the correct notes.
Start again.
Takeo's father said, letting go. Takeo tried to play the song again, but just as he was succeeding, he stumbled again. A tinge of sadness colored his expression.
I can't do it, Dad. My hands can't coordinate with my mind. The movements are too complex. Every time I try, I fail.
Takeo said.
Let me tell you something, Takeo.
His father began, leaning in.
When I compose music for an orchestra, this is what goes through my mind. I don't guide the instrumentalists. I don't compose the music. I don't think about the notes, the pitch, the keys, or the rhythm. The only thing I think about is becoming the music itself. I interface with the music. My body and mind unite into one single entity, to become one with the song. Once I achieve this state completely, everything flows effortlessly. Perfection arises from that unity.
But what if I can't keep up with the movements, the speed, or the rhythm? My brain is uncoordinated for this kind of thing.
Takeo, let me dispel a misconception. The body and mind are not two separate things. They are actually part of one harmonious organism. However, they must be united as so, like the bike and the rider, the driver and the car. The body does not limit the mind, but it is the mind that limits the body. Once you find the conviction within yourself to break the illusions we call mental barricades, anything is possible, even the impossible.
Takeo nodded and smiled. His conviction was relit, his soul reignited with a new fire.
Now start again.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the awe-inspiring spectacle that is the 2056 Chinese Olympic Games, graciously hosted in the vibrant city of Shanghai. In keeping with the age-old tradition of the Games, the Olympics is the place where physical excellence reigns supreme. However, a new chapter has emerged, one that embraces the cutting-edge advancements of robotics and cybernetics. Among the myriad events capturing the imagination of spectators worldwide, one stood out as a true embodiment of this all-encompassing technological fusion, Beat Saber. In a mesmerizing display of harmonious synergy between man and machine, this captivating virtual reality game has taken center stage. Gone are the days when the Olympics solely celebrated the pinnacle of human might. Instead, this new era beckons us to marvel at the boundless potential of technological prowess, where human achievements are magnified by the embrace of innovation.
The stadium erupted in noise and cheer, lit up in a mix of blue and red lights. The announcer began.
The first round goes to Team Japan with 2 rounds left, best of 3.
The opposing player on Team China slammed down his saber in rage. He spoke Chinese bitterly to his teammates. They were still determined to win. Kazuki went to the bench to rendezvous with his fellow teammates. His Ronin was on the brink of overload.
You killed it, Kazuki,
the coach said, patting him on the back.
Thanks, Coach.
Kazuki said.
However, I don't think you should play the next round.
Why not?
Look at your Ronin. It was almost at the brink of synaptic collapse. You pushed it too hard, and if it fries, so will your brain.
The coach explained.
I'll be fine. This glory of victory is mine, and if it fries, we can just substitute with Takeo.
Kazuki said with a hot determination burning in his eyes. As Kazuki turned around to face the arena, the coach grabbed his hand tightly and said,
You could die.
Kazuki responded,
I'd rather die fighting for glory than live in the shadow of defeat.
He ripped his hand from the coach's and walked forward to the arena. Meanwhile, in the bleachers, Takeo watched Kazuki walk away. Takeo, the young man, now 25 years old, sat on the bench, sweating nervously. Those dreaded images kept flashing in his eyes. He couldn't shake them off. In the audience, Takeo's older brother, Kaito, sat on the front seats, watching the game intently. A young and utterly beautiful girl gracefully speed-walked down the aisle from the exit. She walked into the row that Kaito was sitting.
Oh, hey, Natsumi. I saved you a spot.
Kaito said, waving at her.
Thanks, Kaito.
She said, sitting down.
I was caught up in traffic from the hotel. Has Takeo played yet?
She asked.
No, not yet. Kazuki won the first round, but barely. His Ronin isn't looking too good. It looks like his brain and synaptic link almost reached full capacity in that last round.
A Ronin? Is that the robotic thing on their arms?
She asked.
Yes, it's an exoskeleton that links to the user's brain. It greatly enhances the neural link between the arms and the mind, allowing for speeds and reaction times never seen before. This is the first time the Japanese team are adopting them, so they are not so experienced with the tech, though it's been standard in competitive Beat Saber for a while now.
And what happens if it reaches full capacity?
She asked hesitantly.
If the user reaches the Ronin's full capacity, it will result in a synaptic feedback loop between the man and the machine, causing rapid and uncontrollable muscle spasms, which will not only disqualify the player, but also may cause permanent brain damage and even death.
They are willing to kill themselves for a game?
For them, this is not a game. It's everything.
Kaito said, gripping his fist. Kazuki got up on the arena stage and did some preparation stretches for the next round. Takeo stood up from the bleachers and went up to Kazuki.
Hey, Kazuki, are you sure you got this?
Takeo said, with a tinge of nervousness in his voice.
I am the best Beat Saber player in the world, Takeo. I have this.
Kazuki responded. He continued,
And anyways, China ain't sending their best.
They both looked in a state of complete awe and shock when the new Chinese player stepped out into the light. In the audience, Kaito dropped his bag of popcorn, completely in disbelief of what was before him. From the gentle mist, a menacing figure emerged. It was not human.
What is that?
Natsumi asked Kaito in the audience.
I don't know.
Kaito said, baffled. His body was entirely cybernetics, hydraulics, and robotics. He didn't have a Ronin. No, he was the Ronin. His appearance resembled an ancient Chinese warrior. The only thing organic present was the brain in his artificial skull, with millions of wires connecting to it. Kazuki didn't appear to fear him, or it, but he became more serious in his tone with this new opponent.
Players, please step up onto the lanes for the second round,
the announcer stated. Kazuki and the Chinese player stepped up and put on their virtual reality headsets. They stood side by side, and the song would play at the same time for each player. As they prepared for the second round, Kazuki turned to his side to face the demonic cyborg. He asked,
What are you?
The Chinese player scoffed and replied,
I am the next step in human evolution. I am Mogwai.
Kazuki nodded his head and turned to face his lane. He activated his Ronin and cracked his neck. The announcer began.
The next song will be Adrenaline by Ace at 158 BPM and with a total of 5,127 notes at 4 minutes and 2 seconds.
Oh my god, 5,127 notes in 4 minutes?
Kaito said, gulping.
What's wrong, Kaito?
That's a lot of notes.
The stadium stood silent in anticipation.
Players, are you ready?
Mogwai, the Chinese player, and Kazuki both nodded their heads and got into their stances. They unsheathed their blades. Kazuki had katana-like blades, while Mogwai had curved Chinese bakwashandaos.
Round 2 of the final set of Beat Saber of the 2056 Chinese Olympic Games shall begin in 3.
Kazuki felt his heart race. He was ready, he told himself.
2.
Coach and Takeo both gripped their fists in anticipation.
1.
Mogwai showed no emotion, only pure focus at the task at hand.
Start!
It began. The song had a relatively slow start, with a natural build-up to fine-tune and coordinate each player's movements. The real challenge wouldn't appear after 20 seconds into the song. As the players began to play, Kaito explained the game to Natsumi.
You see, Natsumi, Beat Saber is quite a simple game. The player is meant to slice a beat in according to the rhythm of the song, the blue note with the blue saber, and the red with the red saber. The way the player wins is by achieving the highest score, depending on how well they sliced each note, combo execution, and not missing any notes. However, this otherwise deceptively simple game becomes far more complex as it increases in difficulty and scope.
What is so special about this match that left you so shocked?
The average reaction time of a human being ranges from about 200 to 300 milliseconds or 0.2 to 0.3 seconds. However, this particular song is 5,127 notes at 242 seconds total. Taking this into calculation, the average notes per second for this song is 21.20, which is around 0.047 seconds between notes.
The song picked up in intensity. The Chinese player was flawless in its speed and execution of the notes. Kazuki was matching his speed with just as much power. However, his Ronin was reading that his mind capacity quotient, or MCQ, was filling up at a faster rate than he thought.
So think about this. If there is only a gap of 0.047 seconds between notes, and the lowest reaction time of a human being is only 0.2 seconds, how can they possibly be fast enough to hit the notes?
The Japanese coach looked at the data metric screen, showing all the metrics of Kazuki.
His MCQ isn't looking too good. There was some bleed-through from the previous game,
the coach said, biting his nails.
If he keeps up at this pace, he is going overload within 3 minutes and 30 seconds.
That's almost enough time till the song is over. He's gonna make it. I believe in him,
Takeo said, gripping his fist even tighter. Kazuki's movements were fast, but he began to stutter slightly as hundreds of beats came at him at an incredible pace. The pain kept getting worse and worse. He grit his teeth and kept going.
That's where the Ronin comes in. The Ronin, manifesting a symphony of quantum computing and superposition, amplifies the electrical impulses between the neurons in the brain and the muscles in the arms, leading to an enhancement of the reaction time by around 150%. However, to hit the notes in this particular song, you would need a reaction time enhancement of 176%. So for this song, even with the convergence of millennia of biological evolution entwined with technological progress, and even with the indomitable assistance of the Ronin, they won't be fast enough,
Kaito said.
Then how are they managing to hit the beats?
Natsumi asked.
The song is still speeding up. It hasn't reached the crescendo yet,
Kaito replied.
We will just have to see.
The score was out of 589,605 maximum points. It was 2 minutes and 45 seconds into the song, with a thin lead on China's side. Mogwai was achieving speeds that was beyond human perception, and yet this was only a taste of its power. Each slice was flawless and elegant, yet it felt strangely detached. It was truly a sight to behold. As the notes flooded in, Kazuki started to lose control. The notes were simply too much, too complex, and too fast. Kazuki took a moment to compose himself and reassured.
You're the best.
Flames reignited in Kazuki's eyes. His movement sped up, but his accuracy worsened. He was still utterly determined to win. It all came down to this, after all.
It's very close, but it seems like Kazuki is catching up, with a score of 253,542, and Mogwai at 260,987.
He's barely hanging on. We gotta stop him before he reaches overload,
Coach said, who started towards the arena. Takeo stopped Coach with his hand.
Let him play,
Takeo said.
As his coach and mentor, I am responsible for his well-being. I can't let him injure himself out there.
There is only 48 seconds left to the song. He's gone this far. You might as well let him finish,
Takeo said.
Fine.
Wow, it looks like Kazuki has taken the slight lead over Mogwai. Incredible.
As the song reached the crescendo, an impossible barrage of notes came racing toward the players.
There is simply no way that's possible.
Kazuki looked forth at the incoming barrage of notes with determination in his eyes. His mind and Ronin were on the brink of overload. Immense pain was coursing throughout his entire body. He felt like his head was about to burst.
All I gotta do is overcome this, and then I'll win,
he thought. But then the notes came in. Kazuki tried to keep control in his speed, but then he got disoriented by the sheer amount of notes.
Kazuki, you can do it!
Takeo screamed, but it was no use.
His metrics are all red. He's reaching overload,
Coach yelled. His Ronin lit up red, indicating that the user has reached their cognitive limit.
It's not over yet,
Kazuki yelled as he swung his arms violently to hit the notes. He let out a primal scream, while Mogwai didn't make a noise and remained focused. There were only 10 seconds left to the song, with an extremely close lead favoring Kazuki. Despite everything, Kazuki was still winning. Then, all of a sudden, Kazuki started to have a seizure. He dropped his blades onto the floor, and his Ronin started making alerting noises. It all happened in slow motion. Coach and Takeo came running towards the arena. The song had just finished. Kazuki came falling to the ground. He was completely spent. He fell onto the ground, and the entire stadium was utterly shocked. They couldn't catch him. He kept having seizures whilst on the ground, and the coach tried to reduce the effects.
Kazuki, talk to me!
Coach yelled at him. His seizures stopped, and then he remained dead still.
Kazuki!
He slowly opened his eyes, completely delirious and burnt out.
Kazuki, thank God!
Kazuki had to take a moment to gather himself and then asked Coach,
Did I win?
The announcer stated,
And that's round one. The winner of this round is...
Everybody waited in great anticipation. Nobody knew what happened in the end since they kept the score hidden during the last 10 seconds.
China!
The audience went wild in cheers and screams.
I'm sorry, kid.
Coach said to Kazuki as he held him in his arms. Meanwhile, Natsumi and Kaito were totally surprised.
I told you. It was too many notes.
Kaito said,
But he got so close.
The body's limitations can only be surpassed so much until it breaks. Now it's his turn.
Coach carried Kazuki to the bleachers. He was still delirious, like a fried microchip. Takeo's heart started to beat faster. He knew that it was his time.
The final round shall begin in 3 minutes.
The Volvo SUV gracefully arrived at the school amidst a relentless downpour, rendering visibility nearly impossible amid the cascading raindrops. Kaito ran from the shade and into the car's back seat. He took off his soaking jacket. There, his father and mother sat in the front, all exquisitely dressed up for a certain occasion.
Have you seen Takeo, Kaito?
The father asked, sitting in the driver's seat dressed in a suit.
I haven't.
Kaito said.
Where do you think he is?
His mother asked.
He said he has a big Beat Saber game tonight.
Kaito said hesitantly. His father started breathing angrily.
He has a what? He promised me.
His mother tried to calm him down.
Honey, it's okay.
No. He promised that he would play piano at my orchestra.
At that moment, lightning struck nearby. The father's heart started to pump faster.
Kaito, do you know if he left school or not?
I'm not sure.
There he is,
his mother said, pointing towards the front of the car. Takeo was running in the rain, his face covered by his thick jacket. His father put the car in drive.
I am going after him,
he said, slamming the gas. Takeo continued to run through the heavy rain. His destination was the train stop nearby. Those words echoed back to him.
You have a natural talent for this, Takeo. I want you to play at the tourney next week. It will be your stepping stone into competitive.
He was headed towards that game no matter what. He heard a car behind him. It was his dad's car. It was catching up fast. No, he wanted to do his own thing. He ran even faster and into a nearby alleyway.
He ran into the alleyway.
I'll flank him from the other side,
he said, driving even more maniacally. As he ran into the dark alleyway, he climbed over a fence. He ran faster and onto the street perpendicular. As soon as he did, he saw two bright headlights through the thick rain. The car slammed on its brakes.
What are you doing? You almost hit him.
Takeo took a moment to glance at the car and then darted the other direction.
I'm going to chase him,
the father said, putting the car in park, unbuckling his seatbelt and opening the car door. He got out and started to run. Kaito and his mother were both greatly distressed.
This means a lot to him, huh?
This night means a lot to both of them.
Takeo's father ran towards him in the heavy rain, getting utterly soaked. Lighting struck again.
Takeo!
His father yelled. There was no response. He kept running. Takeo saw the stairs to the platform for the train station. He ran up them as fast as he could. His father was not so far behind.
This is my story, not his,
Takeo thought as he ran up the steps and onto the train platform. He slid his bus card on the reader and went through the gate.
The B train will arrive in 1 minute,
said the voice coming from the station's speakers. The station was outside, so the rain was still coming through. Takeo tried to find a hiding place from his father, but it was no use. His father spotted him as soon as he went through the gate. The father took a moment, however, as he felt a painful ache in his chest. He gripped it tightly.
Takeo!
He said as he went up to him. Takeo stood near the edge of the tracks.
You promised,
the father said to him. Takeo stood silent.
Look, Takeo, is it so selfish to say that I need you by my side? That I need you to continue my legacy?
He asked.
They are rolling out with these AI composers, and I don't feel so good about them. They can never replace real composers. They can never replace us.
Takeo turned around to face his father.
There are two things I want more than anything in this world, Dad.
And what's that?
To fulfill my potential to its fullest, and to make you proud of me,
he said as his voice cracked. He covered his eyes to wipe away his tears. His father began to cry as well.
Oh, Takeo.
But one of those things is preventing me from doing the other. I I don't want to follow your path. I want to play Beat Saber. That is my dream. That is where my true potential lies.
That stupid game. You will take that over composing? Over me?
The father said bitterly. The train careened into the station, propelling a gust of wind that swept the rainwater across the platform, creating a swirling vortex of motion between them.
The B train is arriving. Please keep a safe distance between you and the train.
You're wrong, Dad.
He turned around to enter the incoming train.
Takeo, wait.
The father said, grabbing his hand. Takeo yanked his hand out from his father's grip and walked through the opening doors.
Goodbye, Dad.
His father tried to walk through the doors, but the pain in his chest became much, much greater. The doors closed with Takeo looking behind his shoulder. His father started to kneel and sob on the pavement. His wife and son caught up and reassured him. The train began to move. Takeo looked out the window into the infinite rain. Takeo prepared his Ronin. Everybody has that one moment in their life that leads to one single defining event. Every action, every memory, every emotion, and every choice has led up to this. The weight of his past experiences seemed to converge upon this pivotal instant. Takeo felt heavy, burdened by something.
Takeo, are you ready?
The coach asked.
Yeah.
Takeo said, cracking his neck and rolling his arms. Both players walked up to their lanes. The Chinese player Mogwai and his cybernetic body began to speak face-to-face to Takeo. Takeo didn't make eye contact. He was just preparing for the next round.
I was nothing before they took me in.
Mogwai said. Takeo stood silent.
Nobody wanted me. I was just left to die in an orphanage, a useless clump of cells.
He said.
They took me in, gave me a new body and a purpose. I was freed from the shackles of feeble human flesh. That's the thing with the human body. It limits you. Now, I am free.
Takeo stood silent, focusing only on the incoming game. Mogwai said something else to Takeo that caught him off guard, however.
What do you think he's saying to Takeo?
I don't know,
Kaito said.
But if there is one thing I do know, is that once Takeo has his mind set on something, nothing will stop him.
The next song will be Mad Desire by Steffi Martini at 153 BPM at 8,937 notes at 6 minutes and 36 seconds.
The announcer said.
It all comes down to this,
Kaito said. Both players put on their virtual reality headsets.
The final round of the final set of Beat Saber of the 2056 Chinese Olympic Games shall begin in 3.
The announcer said. Suddenly, Takeo began to feel a sharp stabbing pain in his chest.
2.
Mogwai, as before, is completely focused at the task at hand.
1.
Takeo's pain swelled as flashes of that night came back to him. He had to overcome this.
Start.
Takeo and Mogwai swung their sabers and sliced the notes at an imperceivable speed. Their competitive spirits were palpable.
I just did the calculations.
Kaito said.
The time between notes is 0.0442 seconds, which is even faster than the previous song.
I believe in him, that he will win.
Natsumi said.
So do I. After all, he gave up everything for this.
The notes got even quicker. Takeo's heart pumped faster, harder. On the sidelines, Coach was reading Takeo's metrics.
His Ronin is reading green. However, his heart rate is already at 170 BPM, and we just started.
Coach said to Kazuki, who was sitting on a bed recovering from his previous round.
I can tell something is not right with him.
Kazuki said in a weak voice. This particular song was especially difficult, even with their experience and enhancements. The variety of patterns, the speed of the beats, and the sheer complexity of the song made it one of the most difficult songs ever mapped in the history of Beat Saber. As Takeo swung his saber, the pain in his chest became greater and greater. It started to mess with his focus and speed. On the other side of the arena, the Chinese coach was flanked by men in suits.
What is happening?
One of the men in suits asked.
He's doing fine.
The Chinese coach responded.
The metrics state that his brain is reaching full capacity.
The suit said nervously.
This song is extremely complex, so it is only natural that he would be pushed a little harder.
The coach said.
This is Mogwai's debut. He better perform flawlessly for the sake of the shareholders and for your sake.
The suit said menacingly. Despite the immense pain, Takeo kept going. slicing beats at a rate that matched Mogwai's.
The score is 189,230 on Japan's side and 170,153 on China's side. What a tight race.
Beat Saber is more than just a game that's about rhythm, reaction time, or focus. It's also a game about endurance.
Kaito said.
That is the purpose behind the Ronins, behind Mogwai. Not just to enhance speed, but to enhance endurance as well. The Chinese wish to beckon a new age of robotics and AI where humans will become obsolete. That is the real purpose behind this match.
Kaito continued as the players went on.
This match will not only determine Takeo's fate, the Olympics, or even Japan. It will determine the fate of humanity itself.
Takeo felt his heart race faster, the pain spreading throughout his body. He was just ignoring it until now, but it got to a point where it interfered with his performance.
His heart rate is at 190 BPM.
Coach yelled, drenched in sweat.
Should we intervene?
Not yet,
Kazuki said. Those images kept flashing in Takeo's mind. His father, that dreaded night. His heart beat even faster. He kept his father's words in his mind as he sliced the beats. He still believed him. However, doubt and guilt flooded his mind as the song became more daunting and complex.
Something's not right,
Kaito said.
What's happening?
Natsumi asked, worried for Takeo.
I hope it's not what I think it is,
Kaito said, gripping his fist tightly. The song got even faster. The chorus was followed by a barrage of impossibly complex and quick notes. Takeo was fast, but his movements became less refined, less consistent. Mogwai, despite using his full brain and CPU capacity, was still going at it. Mogwai's coach overclocked his CPU at the risk of overheating.
It happened 7 years ago,
Kaito said hesitantly. Natsumi gulped in fear and confusion.
He had a massive heart attack in the middle of his show, and
What? I'm so sorry. Takeo never told me about this.
I think it's because he feels responsible.
The pain was overwhelming. His heart felt like it was being stabbed with a knife, and the pain diffused throughout his body.
His MCQ and Ronin are doing fine, but his heartbeat, I almost lost a pupil just now. I can't make the same mistake. It's at 220 BPM. I have to stop this.
Coach exclaimed. He started towards the arena. Kazuki from his bed weakly grabbed his coach's hand.
You can't,
he said, his voice barely holding on. The coach ripped his hand from Kazuki's grip. He marched towards the stage. All of a sudden, someone ran in front of him.
You have to let him play,
Kaito said, holding the coach back.
Who are you?
I'm Takeo's brother, and right now he needs this more than anything.
I'm sorry, but a person's life is more important than a game,
Coach said, pushing Kaito out of his way. Kaito pushed back. They got into an arm hold, trying to push each other in opposite directions. Natsumi looked from afar in great distress and anxiety as the two men fought each other. Meanwhile, Takeo kept playing. Adrenaline was rushing through his veins. He imagined himself in that dark moment, the moment where his father composed, where he gave it his all. He thought he could make him happy. But guilt flooded his mind, and the tremendous pain, the pain his father felt, coursed through his body. It was ripping him apart from the inside. As the coach fought Kaito, Natsumi came down to break it up. She took a glimpse at the screen which showed Takeo's metrics, and what she saw shocked her.
His heart, it's pumping at 250 beats.
She yelled, starting to shed a tear.
Kaito, we can't let him continue. He'll...
Kaito turned around and saw Takeo play. He was sweating, shaking, and he seemed weak. His swings were slowing down, and he even missed some beats.
The score is very close with China in the lead, and there is 2 minutes and 58 seconds left to the song,
the announcer said. The fire in Takeo's eyes began to extinguish as he became engulfed in guilt. He felt detached from this world. He was utterly consumed by the pain. As soon as the coach broke free of Kaito's hold, he ran towards Takeo on the stage.
Takeo!
And then, as if the pain wasn't great enough, Takeo had felt as if he was stabbed directly in the heart with a sword. He screamed, but faded into nothingness as his voice was weakened. His arms felt heavy and dropped his blades onto the floor. Consciousness started to fade away. His vision got blurry. He began to lose his balance. The coach yelled to the announcer,
"Shut it down! Stop the match!"
Everybody in the stadium was dumbfounded until they saw Takeo slowly fall to the floor. The announcer put a pause on the game. Takeo's vision turned from blurry to black. As soon as he fell to the floor, Coach ran and jumped to save him. He caught him at the last minute before hitting the floor. In that very moment of clarity before Takeo went out, he remembered Mogwai's final words to him.
I know what happened to your father. Do you know why he died? He died because of that weakness.
Takeo, speak to me!
The coach yelled, holding Takeo in his arms. He ripped off Takeo's virtual reality headset and threw it out of the way. He was not responding. Kaito and Natsumi both ran up to him. Mogwai spectated in silence, emotionless.
His heart rate is rapidly falling. Save him! It's at 150 right now.
She yelled. The emergency doctors came running towards him. They set up their equipment near Takeo.
Talk to me, Takeo. You're still here.
Coach yelled. He was not responding.
It's at 80 and dropping fast. Do something.
Natsumi said, holding a small metric reader in her hand. Kaito put his hand on his head, sweating. The coach started to perform chest percussions. He was not responding.
It's at 42 and dropping.
Natsumi said, collapsing on her knees.
Takeo!
Administering 1 milligram of atropine.
The doctor said as he injected Takeo with a needle.
Stay with me, Takeo!
The coach said. Kaito, Natsumi, and the whole audience was petrified in fear and worry for Takeo's condition. There was no response from the atropine. His heartbeat faded faster and faster.
I'm sorry, Takeo.
Kaito said, trying to hold back tears.
Administering 2nd dose of atropine.
The doctor said, stabbing his neck with a needle.
You can't die on me!
The coach screamed, holding Takeo tightly in his arms.
Nothing's happening.
Natsumi yelled. The coach checked his pulse and his heart.
I don't hear anything!
He exclaimed. The doctor ripped Takeo's shirt off and yelled,
Clear!
As he placed the defibrillators onto his chest. It shocked him, causing his body to convulse, but there was no signs of life. Natsumi broke down in tears.
Clear!
The doctors yelled once more as they slammed the defibrillators onto Takeo's body. Same thing as before, convulsion, but no heartbeat, no movement, no life.
Keep going!
The coach said, his eyes covered in tears. The doctor replied,
Sir, he is not responding. I'm not sure if...
I said to keep going!
The coach yelled, voice cracking, his disposition and logic falling apart. The doctor nodded and placed the defibrillators onto Takeo's chest. Once again, a convulsion, but not a single sign of life. The doctor shook his head. There was nothing else that can be done. The coach let out a primal scream. Natsumi and Kaito quickly went up to Takeo's lifeless corpse.
You idiot, Takeo.
Natsumi said, bawling as she held Takeo's pale hand tightly. Kaito tried to comfort her, but he too was burdened by the passing of his dear brother. The audience stood in silent respect and sorrow.
You...
The coach said to Kaito,
This is your fault! You didn't let me through to prevent this!
He yelled bitterly at Kaito.
I had faith in my little brother.
Kaito said, crying.
And now he's gone.
The coach said, on his knees. The weight of the loss pressed upon him, his spirit broken by the finality of the moment. Mogwai, devoid of empathy or compassion, cast a scornful glance at Takeo's motionless body. In his callousness, he found no significance in the life that had slipped away. To him it was a pitiful sight, a mere spectacle of human frailty. Yet amidst the somber scene, Natsumi remained steadfast by Takeo's side, her eyes filled with a glimmer of hope that flickered against the odds. Though it may have been a refuge in the realm of denial, her heart clung to the belief that this was not the end, that somehow a trace of life still lingered deep within him.
I love you, Takeo.
Natsumi whispered, her voice laced with a bitter-sweet tenderness, reminiscent of the happier moments they had shared. The rain outside the arena got heavier, gusts of harsh wind blowing panels off the Olympic Stadium. The once radiant sun was eclipsed by gathering clouds, casting a shroud of darkness over the city of Shanghai. It was over. Takeo woke up in a familiar place. The sun coming from the window next to him was blinding, so he had to wait for his eyes to adjust to the light. He reached for his eyes to take off his virtual reality headset, but there was nothing there. It was just his eyes, unobstructed. He was not in the virtual world. Wherever he was, it was real. Then he remembered. It was his childhood home, just as it was all those years ago. He slowly explored this familiar environment. As he walked near the living room, he heard a person play the first few chords of a familiar song. He walked to where the sound came from, and then he saw it. It was an older man, sitting on a stool next to a grand piano. He had his head tucked under his arm, resting on the piano.
Dad?
The man raised his head from his arm and turned around. It was him.
Takeo!
He exclaimed in an ambiguous tone, wiping away his tears. He got up from the piano bench and ran towards Takeo. Takeo was confused and cautious, expecting a disciplinary action.
Dad, wait, don't, I'm sorry.
His father hugged him. Takeo was utterly confused, but in time wrapped his hands around his father, accepting his unexpected embrace. His father let him go and looked at him.
You're all grown up,
he said, holding his son by the shoulders, a tinge of sadness and longing in his voice. Takeo began to cry without even knowing.
I really missed you, Dad.
Me too.
I don't understand. I thought you would be angry at me.
Takeo said, breaking eye contact away shyly.
Why would I be angry at you?
I killed you.
His dad shook his head in disagreement.
Come join me,
he said, beckoning Takeo on the piano stool. Meanwhile, Natsumi tightly held Takeo's cold hand, still holding onto hope. Everybody else was in acceptance of what just occurred. The doctors brought out a bed and a shroud for the body. Coach and Kaito were both mourning the devastating loss.
Due to unforeseen circumstances, we have to give this game to China,
the announcer said to the stadium, who was also mourning Takeo's unexpected death. They both sat on the stool.
Do you know where we are, Takeo?
In heaven?
A gentle chuckle escaped his dad's lips, as if amused by the notion.
We're at the Convergence point,
he began, his words now imbued with a profound depth. He started to play a beautiful song on the piano.
This is the sacred space where every rhythm, melody, lyric, and every single note of music that emanates from the joy and sorrow from the hearts of every human from the past, present, and future converges. Music,
his dad continued,
is the story of our souls. It is the extraordinary alchemy that shapes chaos into order. Within its embrace, we find solace, inspiration, and the deepest connection to the very essence of humanity.
Takeo's eyes widened. He began to understand the weight of his father's words. He raised his hands from the keys of the piano, yet somehow the song continued. He put his hand on Takeo's shoulder and smiled.
You could never have hurt me, Takeo,
his father said sincerely.
I wanted to see me in you, the perfect version of me, and that was my mistake,
he said, shedding a single tear.
When I argued with you on the train station, I didn't meant to make you feel bad.
You are my son, and I love you dearly, and will always love you.
I love you too,
Takeo said, wiping away his tears. His dad smiled.
You are a man of tremendous talent. You make me proud to be your father.
Thanks, Dad. That means a lot to me,
Takeo said. Takeo looked around and continued.
I want to stay here, Dad, with you in this moment. Forever.
You can't. My song may be over, but yours is just starting.
I don't want to go.
You still have a purpose not yet fulfilled,
his father said, putting his hand on Takeo's shoulder. The father then placed his hands onto Takeo's hands, gently guiding them on top of the proper keys of the piano.
Now start again.
Suddenly, Natsumi sensed Takeo's hand tightly clutching hers, while the heart rate monitor registered a faint, pulsating heartbeat. Takeo slowly opened his eyes, and his vision gradually sharpened into focus.
Natsumi?
Takeo uttered, in complete disbelief of what he had just experienced. Natsumi was in complete and total shock.
Takeo!
She exclaimed, embracing him tightly. Her tears of sorrow turned into tears of joy.
Natsumi,
he said, caressing her face. His skin quickly turned back to its normal color. She took her red leather jacket and wrapped it around Takeo. He kissed her, and she closed her eyes as they shared the heartfelt embrace.
What's this? Has Takeo returned from the dead?
The announcer exclaimed. The whole stadium was speechless. The mood went from complete mourning to celebration. As soon as Kaito and Coach heard the news, they turned around to run to Takeo. Takeo turned to his right to see his brother and Coach, overjoyed yet in total disbelief. They both embraced Takeo, who was still partially lying on the floor.
We thought you were gone.
Well, now I'm back.
Let me help you up, brother.
Takeo gestured his hand to reject Kaito's help. They were confused. Takeo stood up by himself.
The match has been determined. Let's go home.
The coach said.
No, it hasn't.
Takeo said.
What do you mean?
Takeo turned around to face Mogwai, who was walking off the stage.
Mogwai, this is not over.
Takeo said, with a new fire in his eyes. Mogwai turned around, smiled, and walked back to the arena. Takeo turned to his coach, saying,
Tell them to continue the match.
Are you crazy? Your heart stopped. You need to get to a hospital.
You gotta trust me,
Takeo said, staring deep into his coach's eyes. Somehow, deep down, he knew that Takeo was right. Takeo brought out his open hand to Coach. Kaito, Natsumi, and the whole audience watched. The coach grabbed it tightly and smiled. He went up to the announcer and asked him if they could continue the match.
I'm so sorry, Takeo. I should have let Coach stop you. I didn't mean to let you die.
I should be thanking you for that.
Takeo cryptically said, pushing certain buttons on his Ronin. The announcer got back up on the stage.
We are now continuing the match.
The audience broke out in cheer. The coach, Kaito Natsumi, walked off the stage to watch from the sidelines. Kazuki smirked at what just occurred. Takeo picked up his virtual reality headset and put it on his head.
The current score is 697,891 on China's side and 351,230 on Japan's side. We will resume exactly where we left off.
There is no way Takeo can win with such a wide score gap.
The coach said, nervous.
He can win if he hits every single note with a perfect angle, without a single miss.
Kaito said, crossing his arm.
The match will resume in 3.
Takeo put on his virtual reality headset onto his eyes.
2.
Mogwai and his coach both were confident.
1.
Takeo took a deep breath. His heart was totally relaxed.
Start!
In a swift blur, Takeo ripped off his Ronin from his back and threw it behind him onto the arena floor. The announcer, both coaches, Kaito, Natsumi, Kazuki, the entire audience, and everybody watching the Olympics live across the entire world was dumbfounded.
He just took off his Ronin. He's gone mad.
Kaito, who had complete trust in his brother, was totally shocked by this.
I can't believe it. He just died from a heart attack, came back to life. Now he's playing the hardest Beat Saber song that can hardly be played even with the help of a Ronin. And now he's going in without one?
Even Mogwai, who had not expressed the slightest emotion during the match, was taken aback by this, and missed a couple of the incoming notes due to his shock.
Why? Why is he doing this?
And then the notes started coming in. Takeo cracked his neck and smiled. At a speed that was previously thought impossible without the assistance of the Ronin, he moved his arms. His sense of time completely changed. He sliced every single note, flawlessly and with ease.
He's doing it! He's slicing the beats!
The coach said in disbelief of what was happening before him.
I have never seen such speed before.
He didn't miss a single note, even as the song grew in complexity and note density. It seemed like it was effortless for him. The coach ran over to the screen to see Takeo's metrics.
His MCQ is not even reading. It just says error.
Kaito ran over to coach.
Check his heart rate.
It's running at a cool 65 BPM with no signs of spiking.
They both had no idea what was happening with Takeo. But Kaito was slowly starting to realize the truth. Mogwai was managing to slice the beats, but he was quickly reaching his full capacity. His coach and corporate orbiters were struggling to figure out what was happening. Takeo, not breaking a single drop of sweat, continued to slice the notes. He was achieving a perfect combo, making up for the missed notes from before.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are witnessing history. A player has taken off their Ronin, and it seems like Japan is very quickly catching up to China's score.
I think he's done it.
Done what?
He has somehow unshackled himself from all known limits in this world. His mind is free.
The speed in which Takeo was slicing the notes was far beyond human comprehension, let alone human perception. He felt lighter than air itself.
His heart rate still hasn't gone up.
Kaito smiled. He was proud of his little brother.
Show the world, Takeo,
he thought. As Takeo sliced the beats, he became totally immersed in the game. Nothing else existed. It was just him, his arms, the music, and the incoming notes. As he played, he thought,
the deepest desire of every human being is to love, to be loved, and to realize their potential to the fullest. But my longing, my drive, surpasses them all. That's my driving conviction to reach perfection. Not to get the gold, not to be the best, and not to beat my opponent, but to show the world my unlimited greatness. It's just like what Dad said. The body does not limit the mind, but it is the mind that limits the body. Pain, exhaustion, heartbreak, these are all illusions, mere constructs created by the mind. Once I found the conviction within myself to break these illusions, I realized that anything is possible, even the impossible. The old man was missing one thing, however. The ultimate conviction is the desire to change from within, propelled by the power of love, the force that propels us forward, the desire to become something more. Those are the things that we have that machines don't. That is our ultimate weapon.
The score is now neck and neck, with only 27 seconds left to the song.
The announcer screamed, totally immersed in the game, as was the entire world.
I can't believe it! He's catching up to Mogwai!
Meanwhile, Mogwai was on the brink of collapse. His perfect robot persona began to fall apart at the seams.
10 seconds left. The score is now hidden.
Both Takeo and Mogwai gave it their all at this final critical moment. They were both determined to win. Takeo sliced the final notes and finished the match without breaking a single sweat. Mogwai started to lose his balance.
And match.
Everybody was on the edge of their seats, wanting to know who won the final round.
And the winner is...
Takeo took off his VR headset and waited for the result.
Japan!
The audience went wild. Kaito and Natsumi came running to the stage in celebration. Takeo went up to Mogwai, who was struggling to stand up.
You see, that's where you're wrong. You may not have that weakness, but that's what defines the difference between you and me.
Mogwai's coach went to help him stand. Takeo pondered into the sky window above the stadium, where it rained heavily outside. He had remembered those words his father had said to them all those years ago. The clouds dissipated from the sky, returning the blinding orange light of the sun. The rain slowly faded away into a fine mist, refracting the light from the sun upon the seemingly infinite city of Shanghai.
You don't have a heart.